I happened upon the fascinating grave of a First World War soldier recently. All of these proud markers have a story to tell, but this one was intriguing as the date of this man's death was months after the end of hostilities on November the 11th, 1918. Vernon Allen Lawrence, known as Alan, a private in the Bedfordshire Regiment, was listed as dying on Monday, March the 3rd, 1919. The grave is in the grounds of St Mary's Church in Apsley, Hertfordshire. A bit of research on the excellent HemmelHeroes.com website revealed a moving tale of family tragedy. Alan was born in Hertford in 1894, the third son and youngest child born to William Markwell Lawrence and Ada Williams Broom, who had a family of 5 children together. A series of tragedies befell the Lawrence family, as only one of the children survived their parents. Nanette died in 1890, aged 2, Wilfrid in 1910, aged 26, Eustace in 1912, aged 24, and Alan in the Great War. The only surviving child, Josephine, died in 1964 in Hemel Hempstead, having never married. William brought his family to Apsley End near Hemel Hempstead sometime shortly after Alan was born, when he gained employment with John Dickinson & Co Limited as a printer's compositor in the historic Apsley Mills, home to the world's oldest paper mill. Alan followed his father into Apsley Mills when he had completed his education in 1907 and was initially apprenticed in the engineering department. Both of his older brothers also worked with Dickinson's, whilst his sister Josephine became a school teacher. Not long after he went to work in Apsley Mills, Alan left to take up a position as a chauffeur for Percy Christopherson, the headmaster of a school. Percy Christopherson had been an England rugby international and first-class cricketer for Kent before taking up the headmastership of the school in 1902. Alan's position as a chauffeur was more lucrative and came with more responsibility than his job at Apsley Mills, though his early engineering experience would certainly have qualified him for the position. The job at the time would have included maintenance and repair of the motor cars as well as driving. On the outbreak of war, Alan immediately made a request to his employer to be released from his position so that he could volunteer. A brief report was published in the local Hemel Gazette newspaper at the time, describing his enlistment and the generosity of his employer. Alan attested in Hemel Hempstead in the first week of September and enlisted with the Bedfordshire Regiment and was posted immediately for basic training in Aldershot. He had joined the 7th Battalion Bedfordshire Regiment, the Shiny 7th, and for the next 11 months he learned how to be a soldier. He was sent overseas to France on the 26th of July 1915 when the 7th Battalion was posted overseas. In 1916, Alan was wounded in a raid on the German trenches on the 26th of April, an action reported in the Times and recorded in the battalion war diaries as follows. Last night, the Bedfordshire Regiment carried out a very successful raid near Carnoy. The raiding party rushed the trenches and after fierce hand-to-hand fighting drove the remaining Germans into the dugouts and bombed them there. Our casualties, 8 wounded, all brought in. German loss considerable. Alan was mentioned in dispatches for bravery and devotion to duty and taken out of the line for treatment and recuperation. A year later he was wounded for a second time in July 1917, but returned quickly following his recovery and continued to see action until on March the 23rd, 1918 he was taken prisoner at Cambrai. He had been wounded for a third time, but on this occasion severely in both legs. He was taken to a German prisoner of war camp where he was treated and remained until the following October. He was repatriated from Germany on the 23rd of October 1918, along with 538 other prisoners, most of whom were stretcher cases, and he was admitted to the No. 2 London General Hospital in Chelsea. During the next few months, Alan underwent several operations on his legs to treat his wounds, and it was reported that these were generally successful. However, due to his weakened state following his time as a prisoner, the medical intervention took its toll on Alan and he succumbed to his wounds. He died in hospital on Monday, March the 3rd, 1919. His body was returned to his parents in Apsley and Alan was buried in the churchyard of St Mary's in the village on Saturday the 8th of March 1919. The well-attended funeral was reported in some detail in the next edition of the Hemel Gazette, which described the service and the presence of several of the men who had served with him, along with his parents and relatives. Messages of condolence were received from his ex-colleagues at Apsley Mills, as well as one from Mr. and Mrs. Percy Christopherson, who said, "In grateful and affectionate memory of one who served loyally." Alan is remembered with honour in the Apsley End St Mary Churchyard, Hertfordshire, where he is interred in a grave near the North Hedge. He was 24 years old when he died. This focus on just one young man, wounded 3 times in gallant action, highlights the horrors and bravery of the First World War, and really struck a chord with me when I learned of his extraordinary, tragic and short life, which ended just over 100 years ago. It also highlights that every single one of these graves has a story to tell. That's it for this video. Thank you for watching.